Hello, my dear pupils. So my video is going to be about something that is very common, a very common tendency in human thinking, but it's not quite so good. I've got this from a book that I've shown you here, Die Kunst des klaren Denkens by a certain Mr. Rolf Dobelli. It's a brilliant book, and it's about, the subtitle is 52 mistakes in thinking that you better leave to others. And one of these thinking mistakes that we make as humans is the so-called outcome bias. And that means that we take a decision and we evaluate the quality of this decision by the actual outcome that it yields. That means that we evaluate the decision with the additional knowledge that we have acquired in the future about what outcome this decision yielded. And the problem with that is that the decision can only take into account the knowledge that we have at the time, but not all the elements we can take into account. For example, there's also the element of luck or chance. Yeah, so there are things that we cannot take into account. They are just going to happen. And therefore it's not so good to evaluate these decisions. Maybe there were good decisions, but there have been things in the world going on to thwart a good decision's outcome. And I want to explain that to you with the example of the coronavirus, because it's a recent development.
So, what are we going to look at? We're going to look at today. Today we have the situation that there is a coronavirus spreading across the world, and we have to take the decision what to do about it. And when we're taking this decision, we have two options, which is indicated by those two bars. One option is we will just ignore it, do nothing. Yeah, schools remain open, everybody goes to work. The other option is we do all we can to avoid it to be a crisis. We shut down the schools, nobody goes to work, we all do home office, this kind of thing. But no matter what we choose, we have no real influence on how the crisis turns out to be, because we don't know the virus. So it can be, in green here, that it's not a big deal. It's not such a bad crisis and not many people die. But there's also another option, another outcome, and that is it turns out to be a pandemic. Yeah, a lot of people die. It's going to be a real crisis like in Italy. That's indicated in red here. So that's the four outcomes. The evaluation of our decision we do in the future. And in the future, we will know what the outcome of the decision was. Now let's look at the four possible outcomes and our possible evaluation. Yeah? This is now, we do nothing and it's not a big deal. Then we have taken the right decision because, yeah, it turns out it wasn't that drastic, so it was right to not do anything. However, in the future we will have a neutral evaluation where we say, or maybe we even forget it, because if something is not a big deal, we tend to forget things. The other right decision is we do all we can and it turns into a pandemic. Yeah? So we have the two possible right decisions in square boxes. But we also have wrong decisions. When we do nothing and it turns out to be a pandemic, we have taken a wrong decision and we will be remembered as idiots. Because that was plainly wrong. A lot of people died. We should have done something about it. If we do all we can and it turns out to be no big deal, we also took a wrong decision. And then we'll be seen as overly cautious. Yeah, we were afraid of this not so bad virus, and we took a lot of things. So that's what I want to highlight to you. We have a wrong decision or a right decision, but we don't really have any influence.
Okay, so that's the lesson that I wanted to tell you today. Yeah, we, to a certain degree, we already know now what decision is the right one to take. Everybody is taking it. We should do all we can to avoid the crisis. But a couple of weeks ago, there were also like the advocates of these two things. Like one group saying like we have to shut down everything. We have to pump up the medicine and get everything done. And the other group that said like, well, don't do anything. It's not so bad. We have like a lot of influenza problems every year, and we ignore them. So not a big deal. Forget about it. Now we already know that which group was kind of right with their decision, and yet it's still. I mean, this group has good reasons to take this decision and to say like we don't think it's going to be so serious, and we still have that in certain videos where people say like you can see them in the internet. There's this Wodak is the guy, his name. He says like, look at the numbers, it's not that bad, and why should a virus, just because it's a coronavirus and it's new, be as dramatic as the influenza? So that is kind of like the thing, and this guy, he's also a smart guy, and he's probably not an idiot. And the people who advocate that we should be more cautious, they're also not idiots, and they have good reasons for their decisions. So we have to, with this outcome bias, we have to be really careful to not only evaluate this by looking at the outcome, but by looking at what reasons went into taking this decision. Yeah. So even if you take a decision in your life, and something is in the end not as good as you had hoped it to be, don't be too harsh with yourself. Maybe you had good reasons to take the decision, maybe it was good, but then other things that you could not have taken possibly into account, bad luck, chance, whatever, yeah, thwarted your efforts, and then you turn out with a bad outcome. But it need not necessarily be a bad decision. Okay, guys, I hope we see each other soon. Stay healthy and have a good day. Oh, and by the way, the outcome bias also explains why everybody is now jumping onto this, let's be really, really careful and let's shut down everything. Because in that option, if you do everything, if you take the right decision, everything's good. But if you take the wrong decision, we're kind of safe, because the option or the outcome that we are wrong, that means that we're being seen as overly cautious. And that is not so negative. It's maybe cowardly, but responsible. And on the other hand, when we do nothing and we have taken the wrong decision, we'll be seen as idiots. So basically, the being wrong path on the we did everything is kind of not so dangerous for your reputation. And that's really important for politicians.